Hey, I am Miriam and welcome. In this episode here, we are going to tune drums, tune a drum rack in Ableton Live. And we are going to, or this episode here, it builds very much on two videos I have uploaded previously, specifically on tone, timbre, and transient shaping. So if you haven't seen those, then go ahead and click the link up here or check in the description below. I will also leave a link to those videos. All right, so without further ado, let's get cooking. And we have this here is a 909 drum kit that I've imported from a sample pack, and basically just have a couple of, let's remove, so we don't have, that's enough. Let's save that as this basic. Okay, anyway, so we are this when it comes to drum tuning and drum processing, the process is very much repetitive, so it's going to be more or less the same over each and every channel here. So we just have a couple of channels, a couple of sounds, so that I can demonstrate. Will be enough to demonstrate with the method here. So we have two tools at our disposal when it comes to tuning, and it's the tuner and the spectrum analyzer. And on every channel we're going to want an EQ8, so let's start with that. Start with the EQ, then add the tuner and the spectrum analyzer. And what we want to do is we always want to cut at 30 hertz, the bottom half here, because below 30 hertz is not auditable, but it can cause problems for your mix if you have a lot of audio here playing on those frequencies, because they disturb other frequencies, and it can muddy down your mix. So we always cut out the bottom, the lowest frequencies here. And also, even if we are cutting here, when there's still audio, there's still sound down here, it's just not auditable. But then when you add other elements, then they will add up. And if you're not always cutting, then you're going to get problems here on your bottom, and your lower frequencies. So always cut the bottom, and then let's just start playing the kick drum. So we have here the you can see in the tuner, and this is like a guitar tuner, so it's made to tune a guitar maybe. And you can see we have a G, but it's not a perfect G. So if you're a guitar player, then you want this circle here to be playing in the middle here to get a reliable G. And then we have the spectrum analyzer, and you can move this little arrow here so you get a bigger window, and we could close out there so we get a good reading. And then if we have a look here, down in the corner here, we have a little information window, and it tells me what frequencies and what key and what loudness is at where my cursor is. So if we point to the highest peak here of this kick, you can see it's about 49.8 hertz, almost 50 hertz. It's a G, and it is at minus 17 dB almost. So first things first, if we go to the kick, make sure we're on the kick drum and not on the entire group. We go to the kick drum, and then in the sample here we go to the controls tab, and then under here we have amplitude envelope. We have two things that are interesting. It's the transpose and the detune. Transpose, if you look at the tuner, if I move that up, then we go in semitone up or down. And detune we can use to tune the sample. So now it's playing a reliable G. So that's the first thing you want to do. And say, for example, we want to tune these to be an F sharp. We transpose it down one step, and now we're in an F sharp. And that's pretty nice. And then finally, so we did the tuning. Now let's have a look a little bit on on transient processing. So I have a plugin that's pretty good for showing you. Also, let's use this Mac attack here from Waves, and this is pretty good because it's also showing us the waveform here, and it has 2 knobs, so it's pretty basic. There are some other settings here, but we can focus just on these attack and the sustain. And attack, if you move that up, then you're gonna get more loudness on the initial transient of the sound, so it becomes more punchy, more energy maybe. And then the sustain is the body, and it's doing some compression, and compression, we will talk about compression in future videos, but for now, so we get more of the transient or more of the body. And let's put that before the tuner, because we're going to save these here, these plugins or effects or whatever, and we're gonna do Command or Control G to make it a group, and then now it's an effect rack, and then you can go ahead and save that by the little icon here. It's a folder icon, and then you see up here, and then you can give it a name like so. And then you see I have here Udion drum rack, so I'm gonna delete what we just saved, but we're gonna keep it in that, and we're gonna move over to the snare drum, and then I'm just gonna double click my effect rack, and so I get the whole rack here that we just created. And I have already, this one, I saved it. So save it with a low cut and have this set to 0, obviously, because you don't want to have some processing already done. You just want to have what you want to always start with. And as you can see, we cannot get a reading on the tuner here, Tina Turner, because drum sounds are quite short and they don't have a lot of body, and it's also a question of the frequencies. If we look at let's close down, and you see it's pretty flat, and it's placed on basically a lot of frequencies, but we do have a peak here, and what we can do is we can cut with our EQ to the peak, and then if we're lucky, we're gonna get a reading on the tuner. And also we can increase the body to give it more body. So now we have more body, something more for the tuner to work with. And then I'm gonna go and move the frequency here, the band, so the low cut, the high pass, until the peak. And you see now we have a reading here, and it's an A, but this is because I've been messing with these settings here before. So if we just hit it back, you see it's a G, and all of these elements here, except the ride, are tuned to a G. That's because the guys here that made the sample pack, they used their head a little bit when they created it. So, but you see, it's not really tuned, so it's always a very good idea to do this kind of thing, so that you get full control of your drums and make sure that things are playing really in tune. So let's just use the detune here to tune, so that we get the reliable G. So -28 there. Looks like it's playing very good. And what did we say? What were we playing? We're playing an F sharp, which is just one step down, one semitone down. So now we're playing on an F sharp. So we're happy about that. Let's reintroduce. Let's have it cut at 30, right? And then I am going to decide here that since my kick drum is playing at 47 hertz something, then I'm gonna say that I want this to cut all the way to 50, because down here we have the kick is living here, so I'm saying it's the peak there, so let's remove from there. And then I guess one could also do a more artistic kind of wait, wrong way, like that, and I could maybe take down here a little bit on the bottom end, but do be careful, because a snare drum, it needs as well some bottom end to be effectful, and we could also do the other way around, and we could say that the snare here is playing at 185 hertz. So we could go in here and say at around 180. We could do a little bit of a, put a notch here and take down some frequencies to give more space for the snare. And also, one thing I forgot to, let's go back to the kick, because I'm sorry if I'm getting confused now, but we should also cut the top where it's not auditable. So if we go in there, we can hear. Let's listen. So here is nothing that makes no difference. So let's cut, maybe there. And so now the top frequencies here there are more space for other elements to live there. And then the same thing with the snare. Also do a cut at the top. We could solo this channel while we're listening to where it matters and it doesn't matter. So we needed a lot up there. Obviously it was the snare. It's more important. And then let's go to the hi-hats. And then do the same as well. Do the top one where it's not auditable. But be careful when it comes to, I'm gonna say 16,000 here. Be careful when it comes to, be careful when cutting higher frequencies, especially if you're older like me, because when you get older you start losing your hearing at the top frequencies. So maybe you won't hear anything, but the young people will hear a difference. So be careful not to. So since I'm not sure of myself, around here, maybe it's just me, and I'm being sure and say 16,000. That's a bit over that. It's not necessary to have any information. So we did some cutting, and then when it comes to tuning this cymbal hi-hat here, it's going to be very difficult for the tuner to hear this sound. It's too short. And also look how flat that frequencies are. If you look at the EQ there, it's very flat. But we have a good plugin that's free, and I will leave a link in the description below. And it's this one here from Voxengo Span. And this has a very cool feature that you can, if you press Control or Command and hover over it, you can see, if you look up here, we have the key. So I'm just, getting this to be over the sound here, on, thinking about the peak here. So it says it's an A sharp, maybe an A, something like that. And it becomes a question of listening as well. And we said we wanted to go down to an F sharp, and that's 3 steps down. And see, there's an F sharp. And this is difficult to be sure, so use your ear as well. And if you wanted, you can do some transient sharp, but like now we are just playing the drums here, and transient processing might not be as, maybe it can be an artistic choice as well, but more when you have other elements, then you might need to push the attack, the initial transient of a sound, so that it cuts through the mix, And finally, we need 2 more, but let's move on. My drum rack, I'm losing my voice. And so let's just set that to 0. Everything has been moved here because I've been recording this video a couple of times before. But we have the toms here, very difficult to hear as well. We could try to cut to the initial peaks, maybe cut as well at the top, just go. So now we're getting some sort of response here, but if we look at how this sound is moving, it's doing a bit of its gliding, right? So, or transposing in the sound itself. And maybe we could like remove some of the release. Maybe listen to these and then maybe get some more body. We're not getting any reading. There. C. So now we know it's a C, and it's quite far from the F. How many steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps. Let's go up 6 steps. I'm not getting a reading, so let's go and get the span here and see where is that? An F sharp, a G, a C. But yeah. So, and now once we identified, so basically I just removed the release here because it on the tail of the sound it was transposing itself down, pitching itself down, so it was moving and made it so when I was looking in the tuner it was hard for me to see what the initial transient tone was, but now I can take it back again, and we can also. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then the final sound is the ride. And it's been mapped to tune, maybe it comes like that, this rack, but that's for another course. But you can map to these macros here. And after you have tuned all your drums, it's a good idea to have it tuned to a macro of. And you just need to have, if you want to do it yourself, then it's simpler. And then you do a Control G, so you make it a group. Then you have these kind of macros here that you can set by right-clicking and mapping. And I am gonna start a new series as well on Ableton Live, where I will go through and show you different things for how to work with Ableton. But that's not in this video here. But what I wanted to show you, because the ride is a very natural sound, right? And not even those guys that have created this sample pack here, they didn't even bother to tune this. I will show you. Let's go in with a drum rack. And you see how flat the curve is down here, and it's a bit bananas, but and we're not gonna get any readings from the tuner. But if we go with the span, our powerhouse tool here when it comes to tuning, really, you can see that if we get the saying like a B, C, and so if we take it up 6 notches. But use your ears. I think that is that might be it. So let's leave it at that for now, and we don't get a little bit of do a bit of transient processing there, and So, okay, once you have tuned all of your drums, then it might be a good idea to do like this macro setup here and do the set the transport here to some a macro that you named tune, and do that on every drum, and then you can just move these more up and down to go up or down semitones, right?
All right. So um, when it comes to the transient shaping, you saw on the kick there, I was very aggressive on the attack and the sustain buttons. Don't do that. Do as I say, don't do as I do. No, but it was I only were so aggressive there because I wanted to show you guys so and you could hear like the effect of the transient shaping. But you want to keep those not peaking up to 0 dB and not more than that because you're just crushing the sound anyway. And you can also use and maybe better, a transient shaper to get more bulk from, for say example, your snare and the clap. So use that, and uh, I'm gonna make a video here really soon on snares. So um, I'll give you more information in that one. And then we're also in the next video coming up just from after this one is on we're gonna do an episode on kicks. And in that video, I'm gonna demonstrate how we can use the compressor instead of a transient. Not instead of, we're gonna use a compressor first, and then after the compression, we're gonna use a transient shaper to get the desired effect that we want. And s- uh, like what now we tuned all of our drums to a root note hypothetically, but you mean you could use your kit like that, but it's probably, I don't know if it's more common, but you can also, change things up here and uh, instead play on what it's normal to play on the third or the fifth within the scale that you're working with. And but this is more music theory, and those are for future videos. But yeah, and then so this is the end of the video here. Let's just go through quickly what we've learned. So we learned how to use transpose and detune to tune to a note. And we also used some EQing, some cutting with the EQ so that we could get a reading from the tuner. We tried to use a shorter release on a sound that was pitch bending. And we also used some EQ just to give more space for other elements, other frequencies that maybe were more important on another drum sound. And we also used the transient shaper to get a reading from the tuner, or a better reading as well. And I guess compression could work there as well. And then finally, we used the Voxengo span when a sound was really flat and difficult for the tuner to get a reading. And so I'll leave you guys with that, and remember to subscribe if you like this sort of content and you want to see the next videos in this coming up in this series and what I'm doing. And do leave a like if you found this useful, and please do leave a comment. Do you have any suggestions, something I might have left out, or you feel that was needs some change to, or if you just want to say hi, it's great for the algorithm if you leave a comment. So thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.